A man turns down the promise of eternal paradise and willingly enters hell, aiming to rescue humanity from a looming apocalypse. In 1876, deep within Utah's rugged terrain, a determined prospector named Otis Kerber descends into the shadowy depths of Red Creek Mine. Though long whispered to be deserted, Otis believes gold still lies hidden within. As a lunar eclipse casts a blood-red hue across the land, an unholy rift bursts open inside the mine. Drawn to its fiery glow, Otis reaches out, only for his hand to erupt in searing flames. Panicking, he douses the blaze, but something begins to stir. A grotesque shape lunges from the abyss and slams into him. Otis struggles to fight it off, but the entity forces its way into his chest, branding him from within with a blazing sigil. He collapses, lifeless. Suddenly, Otis jerks upright. His eyes have turned pitch black. Whatever possessed him now fully controls his body. 1 month later, in neighboring Wyoming, Sheriff Roy Pulsipher awaits his daughter Charlotte and her soon-to-be husband Angus at the train station. Though Sybil, Roy harbors doubts about the match. Their family reunion is short-lived when the notorious Samuel Brothers gang storms in, guns blazing. Roy heroically draws his weapon but is struck down by a bullet. Just as everything fades, a radiant light envelops him. He awakens in a surreal bureaucratic version of the afterlife, greeted by a chipper young woman named Hono, who already seems to know everything about him. Roy quickly realizes the horrifying truth: he's dead. When he asks about Charlotte, Hanno assures him she's still alive. Though Roy died 3 days ago, his soul's fate had been under review. The verdict: he's been selected for the Rest in Peace Department, God's secret task force. The R.I.P.D. hunts malevolent souls called deados that escaped judgment and now hide in human shells to cause chaos on Earth. These aren't your usual spirits. They possess flesh, manipulate matter, and wreak destruction. In the Afterlife armory, Roy insists on using his old revolver. But Hanno informs him that only divine weapons can vanquish deados. One shot to the head sends them straight to hell. Deos are identifiable by a scorched emblem on their chest, the mark of possession. Roy is tasked with investigating Red Creek, the site of a recent hellish rupture. He's all too familiar with the place. Eager to protect Charlotte, Roy agrees. Hono warns, he won't return to the living. Still, Roy signs the contract without hesitation. Instantly, a glowing 6-pointed star is branded onto his chest. He enters a mysterious elevator. His return to Earth now on a countdown, 2 days until the world ends. Roy materializes inside a bathroom out in the countryside. As he stumbles out, a massive herd of bison stampedes past. Dazed, Roy meets his new partner, none other than Joan of Arc. Hono has assigned her to keep Roy in line. Roy boxed at the idea of a chaperone, claiming seniority. Joan smirks, pointing out that while he's been dead for 3 days, she's been on the job for over 4 centuries. Ignoring her, Roy hurries to find Charlotte. But Joan intercepts him, reminding him of their mission. Frustrated, Roy insists he won't be stopped from seeing his daughter. The dispute escalates into a full-blown fight. Joan, highly trained and seasoned, swiftly defeats him. She then leads Roy to his own grave. There, she explains his funeral already took place. To avoid unsettling the living, both of them have been given new physical forms. Roy is handed a mirror, and recoils in shock. He now appears as a young black woman, just like Joan. Crushed, Roy laments that Charlotte won't recognize him. Joan gently reminds him, their second chance isn't for old attachments, it's for saving the world. Still disoriented, Roy questions their new appearances. In a town with deep-seated prejudice, people may refuse to engage with them. Joan, always pragmatic, proposes they pose as mercenary sisters, strangers, but tough enough to demand respect. Enraged by the unfairness of it all, Roy lashes out. But their argument halts when Henry, Roy's close friend, visits the grave. Joan quickly covers, introducing herself as Matilda and Roy as her mute sister. Mabel, she claims they've come to honor the sheriff who once helped them on the trail. Henry fondly remembers Roy as a tough but noble man, then shares grim news. The town is falling apart. The Samuel brothers continue to terrorize everyone. Worse, Charlotte's fiancé, Angus, has been kidnapped. 3 out of the 5 gang members have been caught, but the remaining 2 are still at large. Fueled by grief and rage, Roy vows to stop them. Joan insists their true target is in Red Creek, hunting deados. But Roy refuses to ignore the outlaws. With vengeance in his heart, he charges off to face them. Joan, though skeptical, agrees to tag along as she and Roy trace the path of the prison transport wagon carrying the gang. Still in disguise, Joan poses as a distressed woman begging for help, claiming her sister is injured nearby. She offers the marshals gold as compensation. Once several marshals are lured into the woods, Joan and Roy strike fast. In moments, they disarm and neutralize the rest near the wagon. Roy tries breaking the cell to reach the deado's leader, but fails. Joan suggests a more divine approach, holy water. The moment a drop hits the deado's skin, the soul tears itself free in agony, morphing into a grotesque flaming demon. The creature rips the cage apart. Roy wastes no time and fires his spirit-bound revolver, sending the monstrosity back to the underworld. One of the brothers raises a rifle at Joan, but she cuts him down with her blade before he can fire. Only Slim Samuels, the adopted sibling, is left breathing. Joan sees value in interrogating him. Roy spots a wanted poster naming Slim as the one who gunned him down. Enraged, he lunges at him, but Slim denies the accusation. Joan threatens him with holy water to extract the truth. Slim, terrified, swears he didn't shoot Roy. He confesses that a powerful deados named Otis Corborb forced them into kidnapping people and delivering them to Red Creek under the threat of death. Roy finally concedes that their gang pursuit wasn't wasted, but Joan's troubled. Why would one possessed soul fear another? Slim explains that Otis wields a weapon beyond their understanding. It is something similar to the divine arsenal hunters use to punish the damned. With Slim now their prisoner, Roy and Joan head for Red Creek to stop whatever horror Otis is planning. In the meantime, Otis confides in his lieutenant, Nell. He recounts how he escaped hell during a lunar eclipse that weakened the barrier just enough for him to slip through. He reveals that tonight's blood moon will thin the veil even further, opening all gates to the underworld for 6 hours. Otis plans to unleash a flood of damned souls into living hosts. If they fail, they'll have to wait another quarter century. He doesn't intend to wait. Tired of hell's endless power games, Otis is determined to bring hell to earth. In Red Creek, he oversees preparations. Kidnapped townsfolk are outfitted with gas masks and fed, so they're strong enough to endure the ritual that opens the gates. One remaining Samuel brother tries to back out. Otis, enraged, rips the soul from his body and condemns him back to the pit with a shot. Roy, Joan, and Slim finally arrive at the eerily empty Red Creek. The few townsfolk left are sick, coughing, and pale. They meet Julius Butterfield, the racist mayor who owns nearly everything in town. He refuses to host them due to their skin color, until the women draw their weapons. Reluctantly, he has a servant named Beverly lead them to their room. Beverly notices Slim's birthmark and mentions the gang had stayed there before. Joan promises Slim won't cause trouble. Beverly isn't worried. Slim, she says, was always the kindest one. Suddenly, Beverly begins coughing violently. Joan asks about the sickness plaguing the town. Beverly says no one knows for sure, but it started about a month ago, around the time Otis escaped. When asked about the missing townspeople, Beverly says Julius told them there was a gold discovery and they'd gone off to mine. The group finds it suspicious that Julius never went himself, raising suspicions he's hiding the truth. From the window, Joan spots an old mine and deduces the sick are likely poisoned by toxic gas. Deep in that mine, dozens of kidnapped locals are kept alive with gas masks, enduring noxious fumes while being prepped for possession. Back in town, Julius, coughing harder, begs Otis for a mask, reminding him of his loyalty. Otis scoffs. Masks are for the workers, he says, but offers Julius the chance to become a possessed soul instead. Desperate to survive, Julius pleads for his life, even offering up the newcomers at his hotel. Otis tosses him a mask, but throws him into a cart, ready to deliver him to the mine. At the hotel, Roy and Joan interrogate Slim again, hoping to learn where the captives are. Slim says they were taken to an old church, but knows nothing more. He pleads that he's not like his brothers. Despite his pleas, Roy and Joan tie him up and leave him behind as they investigate the church. Inside, they find chaos, proof that Slim told the truth. They hear cries for help and discover Julius trapped in a wagon. Gasping for air, Julius reveals Otis has taken everyone to the mine, where he plans to open the gateway to hell. Joan believes the poison seeping into the town is coming from the weakening gates themselves. She warns Roy that Otis intends to use the townsfolk as vessels for the damned, turning every one of them into devotos. Jean explains that if nothing is done, the possessed will grow in number and eventually overwhelm the living world, ushering in the end of days. But there's a catch. Only humans can open a path for souls from the underworld. That's what Otis and his followers aim to exploit by unearthing the gate. Just then, Otis's enforcers ambush Jean and Roy, locking them in iron cages beside the other prisoners. Meanwhile, back at Beverly's hotel, Julius, barely breathing from the toxic gas, desperately searches for proof that Slim was falsely accused. He uncovers the paperwork showing Slim never shot the sheriff. Julius had framed him. Inside the mine, Jean recognizes Nell and instantly connects her to the illegal weapons stash. She remembers how the R.I.P.D once tried to recruit Nell, who instead robbed their armory and vanished. Meanwhile, Angus attempts a breakout, but is swiftly subdued and tossed into the same cage as Jean and Roy. As the sheriff recognizes Angus, old memories flood back despite Angus's new appearance. Roy gets him talking. As the blood moon peaks, the earth cracks open, and a chasm to hell yawns wide. Otis releases all the prisoners, telling Jean and Roy he'll toss them into the abyss just before the gate closes, ensuring they can't disrupt his rule. From the pit, a swarm of lost souls bursts out, immediately taking over the host bodies. Roy asks if the gate can still be sealed. Jean says it can, but only if the hellfire is extinguished. She recalls a relic she once found in a ruined church in Orleans, a vial said to contain Christ's tears. Those tears can quell the fire and shut the gate. Slim finally arrives at the mine, pretending to be loyal to Otis. He points his gun at Roy and Jean, but then turns it on the guards, taking them down and setting his allies free. Slim shows Roy a forged wanted poster, the same one Julius had printed to pin the sheriff's death on him. In truth, Julius had killed the sheriff himself to save his own skin. After escaping, Jean urges Roy to pour the sacred tears into the center of the gate to seal it. Roy offers to do it himself, but Jean hesitates, still haunted by the time she was burned alive. Slim continues the act, pretending to push Roy into the abyss. He uses the moment to bring Roy closer to the edge, then shoots at the corrupted souls swarming nearby. He even tries to shoot Otis, but the demon is unaffected. Even Slim's blessed weapon doesn't harm him. As chaos unfolds, Jean finally overcomes her fear, dives through the hellfire, and pours the sacred tears into the blazing core. The gate begins collapsing, pulling every corrupted soul back with it. But Otis doesn't go down easily. Now fully transformed, he reveals his true identity, the devil's own right hand, a force too powerful for even the sacred fire to consume. Jean realizes the vial is missing. As she scrambles, Otis splits into several demonic forms and launches an attack. Roy finds the last few drops of Christ's tears inside a bullet cartridge. He loads them into his gun and fires, finally vanquishing the creature once and for all. At dawn, the surviving townspeople, including Angus, begin returning from hiding. Jean and Roy return to the hotel to confront Julius, just as Beverly and Slim are escorting him out. Cornered, Julius confesses. When Otis invaded the town, he tried to flee. By chance, the Samuel brothers had begun abducting people near his escape route. In the chaos, he shot the sheriff by mistake and blamed Slim. Later, Roy and Jean attend Charlotte and Angus's wedding. Charlotte, unaware her father's soul resides in Mabel's body, still hugs him tightly one final time. Afterward, Jean and Roy stand in the empty fields by the booth, preparing to return to the afterlife. Roy thanks her for everything and prepares to move on, but Jean reminds him he's still bound to a 100-year contract. Their work is far from over. R.I.P.D 2. Rise of the Damned is a supernatural action comedy prequel to the 2013 film R.I.P.D, set in the Old West. It follows Sheriff Roy Pulsipher, played by Jeffrey Donovan, who is killed and recruited into the Afterlife's law enforcement agency, the Rest in Peace Department. The film leans into a campy, Western-style charm, blending gunslinging action with ghostly mayhem. While it doesn't aim for deep storytelling, it delivers some fun, tongue-in-cheek moments, and light entertainment. Fans of B-movie vibes or the original film might enjoy its mix of undead cowboys, quirky visuals, and playful tone, but expectations should be kept modest.